All right, look, here's the deal. If I do not press record at this very moment, I would have pissed away 3.5 hours of watching YouTube. Because it's all research, right? That's what I tell myself. I'm doing research for the show. Welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. My name is Steve Zimmerman. You probably know me by now. If not, that's cool, whatever. Either way, welcome to or welcome back to the show. Here at the podcast, the whole point is to talk about the Second Amendment and all things related to the Second Amendment. But at times I digress, I kind of shift, I pivot, I move from one topic to another. I try to stay fluid, if you will. And today, I have no idea where this show is going to go. I didn't really plan exactly. I got some things I want to talk about, but nothing really structured. It seems like if I don't firmly lay out my show, it flows better in my brain. Maybe when you watch or listen to this, you're like, Steve, when you do the old shoot from the hip episodes, they suck, and they probably do. But guess what? It's my show, so I really don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do, and that's just going to be what it is. Tonight's beverage of choice is a ginger beer, but I'm not going to show the label. But it's not alcohol. I don't drink. I don't think it's alcohol. They didn't ID me when I bought it. I really like ginger beer, but this brand, man, it's off. It kind of tastes like skanky dishwater. So that's why I'm not going to show the label. Let's see. Let's get you up to date on a few things. First of all, let's talk about liking and subscribing and commenting and sharing. Yes, all that stuff that all the fancy highfalutin YouTubers and whatnots talk about to try and get you to promote their show. And I'm going to tell you the same thing. It does help if you like and share and make comments on each video. That does actually help. Now, do I make any kind of money whatsoever on my views on YouTube? No, I do not. I'm a small fry, but I appreciate the help to get my voice out there, because my voice is your voice. My goal is to help create more stewards of the Second Amendment, get more people involved in their fight for retaining the liberties that we have in this country, because the more of us that pay attention, the more of us that understand that our liberties are given to us by God and not granted by the Constitution, the better we are. I've said it a million times. Don't exaggerate. Whatever. It's so stupid. But it is really those first three words in the preamble, right? We the people. We are the key to keeping liberty and freedom steadfastly in its place. And we should be involved in keeping the government firmly affixed where it belongs. And we have done a terrible job as citizens of this country, a really piss poor job. There is a reason why the founders placed the separation of powers, right? There's a reason why we don't have a king. By the way, we had a no kings march across the country today. It is the 28th of March as I'm recording this at 11 p.m. when I should have started about 7 o'clock. But, it's funny to me that we have these folks marching on the streets, which they 100%, I support the ability and the freedom of them to protest, to march, to do whatever they want. As long as it's not violence, as long as it doesn't impede on other person's liberties, their freedom to travel or whatever, they absolutely can protest and have a no kings riot. I'm 100% for it. I think they're probably a little misguided. I think they might be prescribing a little too much to the rhetoric that probably doesn't exist. Though I will say that the government in its current form, in its current state, in its current makeup is probably a little too big, a little too overbearing, a little too burdensome to the citizens of this country than what the founders had in mind. Now, that is just simply my perspective, my point of view, my thought process. But I think probably some of you might agree with that statement as well. But what do we do? What do we do about it, right? We'll talk about maybe that a little bit more, a little bit later. Supporting the show. I know I don't normally throw this in the beginning. I usually throw this in the end when nobody is watching. I finally got t-shirts out there and sweatshirts. I have, well, you probably saw the He Myers Dozer Service shirt. I've sold one, which I'm actually excited for. That means somebody who I don't even know listens, if they listen to the show, but they purchased that sweatshirt or that t-shirt. I have an eBay shop, which if I'm smart and when I'm editing, I'll throw the link or the image of the eBay shop. It's RMP shop on eBay. And actually, believe it or not, even though I'm hardly ever on TikTok, I threw up a TikTok shop. Now, just be mindful. The apparel, the swag that's on TikTok shop is not necessarily the same as the stuff that's on my eBay shop. Because of eBay's stupid rules, like I couldn't just move all my apparel that I have on eBay over to TikTok. I don't know what it is. Like TikTok doesn't like the vendors that I'm using, and it's all drop shipped, right? You don't get them sent from my house. It's through a third party. Like it or hate it, seemed like the easiest way for me. Definitely the most cost effective way for me. So please, if you like this show, there are some cool items, not just sweatshirts and t-shirts. There's some cool stuff on the eBay, specifically on the eBay shop, and there's also some cool stuff specifically on the TikTok shop. The TikTok shop has free shipping if that's what you want. I didn't set it up that way on eBay just because honestly my margins aren't that great right now. The purpose is to help build up the podcast and help me go places. I'm not going to tell you what exactly is coming up for the show. Not that that's something big and amazing. It could be. It's going to be more fun for me, but I have a trip planned for next month, and I will be taking you guys along with me. I'm really excited. Hopefully this all works out. I got the go-ahead from the company, and you're going to come along with me. If you remember the ammunition episode when we went to Freedom Munitions, I think is what it was called, in Caldwell, Idaho, I brought you guys along. We talked with Joey. We went through the process of manufacturing ammunition. That was kind of a cool episode. It was fun. I don't remember the number of the episode, but you can totally find it. If you go back, it was probably 200 and something, 216, I'm guessing, somewhere around there. I don't recall 100%. But this episode should be pretty cool and kind of eye-opening. Give you another little bit of an inside baseball in an interesting side of the Second Amendment. Also, I have a couple of other things that I've done, little teasers. I will throw this one out. I've spent a little too much money. Don't tell my wife, please, because I'll find out if she watches when I say this. I may have spent a little too much money on a particular Chinese website because I want to try something out. And I know everybody and their dog. I just thought of a terrible, slightly racist joke about Chinese and dogs, but I won't say it. I won't say it. But I really want to try something. And I've talked with Adam with Spartan Mode about something else, and it's along those lines, but we just haven't been able to. I don't even know if I've talked to you, but this is probably so out of left field for you guys. I spent too much money on a Chinese website because I want to try some things that they're advertising, and I know most of it's junk, but I'm not buying optics or anything off of there. I did buy a flashlight that I want to try, a weapons-mounted light. I still have to beat up the Harbor Freight weapons-mounted light, which actually seems to be fairly robust. It's not like a $200 weapons light by any means, but it's a surprisingly, it's more value for the money than I thought it would be. But I also haven't really beat the crap out of it yet. But these other items, I can't decide. Maybe you guys can tell me. Do you want me to do because I think there's 5 or 6 particular. Well, do I tell you? Let's just say there's 5 or 6 items. I can't remember for sure how many there are. Do you want me to do shorts and just talk about one item per short, or do you want like a longer episode and go through each one of those items? They're all the same type of item. They're all relative to each other, and that's why I bought these things. And you probably already guessed what it is, but it should be interesting. So tell me in the comments, do you want me to do one long form episode, or do you want like 6 shorts? I guess I could turn that long form into shorts, and then it's a win-win for everybody. Whatever. You guys tell me. And if it goes well, if these little trials go well, then maybe that's where some of the swag money goes to, is me buying an object related to self-defense on these cheap Chinese websites, so you don't have to, and then we'll put it up against something of value to see, something comparable that's priced way it should be. And we'll see we'll test them. We'll see how they go. That should be kind of cool. I know there's a bunch of guys already out there, a bunch of shows already testing things, but I watched, not Dude Perfect, but it's one of those 3 brothers from Utah that again, when I should have been recording, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos for research. But they just bought a bunch of random stuff. And I don't want to buy a bunch of, I'm focused on specifically self-defense stuff. I want to highlight why it's not a good idea to buy this, or maybe it's worth spending, maybe it's worth the money. Shadiversity, if you don't know who he is, he does knight stuff. Like, he plays with swords. And this is what got me the idea of doing this kind of content, is he found him in, I can't remember the other guy on his, that's a cool video by the cool channel, Shadiversity. But he found a sword on Temu, whatever, that was actually worth its money. Should have been probably more than what they paid for it. And they beat the hell out of the sword. Like, they weren't gentle with it. They beat the crap out of it, and it performed quite well. That's what made me think, hey, maybe there's some other stuff in the self-defense world that we could look at. And I'm willing to spend the money. My wife may not be so much, but I'm willing to spend the money. If we can start making some t-shirt sales and some other swag sales happen, then yeah, we can start making things. We can start buying that kind of stuff and having some different kind of videos. There's also a way you can jump on Patreon. This is a really long way to say, hey, give me money. I have a Patreon. Right now, the top tier, I guess maybe it's the only tier, I can't remember if I've set up tiers, it's $5 a month, and it just goes to towards helping the show. I will bring out some more patches. I know that the patches that I do have for sale on the website, there's only 4 or 5 designs. I get it. Part of the Patreon benefit is that when I get enough folks on there, they can help me pick the next patch. So, and I'm itching to make another patch. Another thing that my wife hates, but it's all good. So jump on TikTok shop, Range Minded Podcast. You can find it under my profile. There's stuff, like I say, there's stuff on there that's only available on TikTok, not on eBay. Some of the stuff is similar, but it's not. Like, it's not the same. Or you can jump to the eBay. I'll put the link in the show notes or in the pinned comment if I can remember. That way you can look and see. I just printed a shirt tonight. I just made another. I didn't print the shirt, but I made another design tonight. That was the other thing I was just wasting my time on. In reference to the last episode and the tyrants, because I'm tired of tyrants. Should we actually talk about something other than me begging for money? Would that be a better idea? I think so. So this week, let's just transition, right? This week, over the last, did I miss a show last week? I probably did. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in the 2A world A lot of stuff I'm not going to touch on. I'm not going to talk about new guns because I think there's a lot of guys out there doing that. I know in the beginning we talked a lot about that cool new things that are coming out this year, and there are continually new guns coming out, which is awesome. Last episode we talked about Virginia and how the governor and the state has passed a ridiculous amount of incredibly anti-Second Amendment laws focused on firearms, but just some radical, disgusting, repugnant to the Constitution laws. And it sparked a little bit of... Here's the thing. I shouldn't read comments, and they're probably mostly on the shorts. Like every so often I'll take an episode and I'll use AI. I'll use my editing software because it has the ability just to kind of chop up the video, and it makes like maybe 15 to 25 shorts, and I'll just publish those shorts and schedule them out every day. And so the problem is a lot of times they're not even like normal viewers. I don't even think any of these people subscribe, but they'll see like the little hashtag about something in particular. And so they see this 30-second segment of the show, which doesn't give them the whole, it doesn't give them the idea of what the show is about in total. And some moron, hi, if you're watching, welcome to the show. Thanks for subbing. But you're still a moron. Decided to focus because I talked about Virginia and how it seceded from the Union and then came back because of slavery. And instead of like jumping on and understanding that the entire show was about the Second Amendment and how Virginia has fallen from its original state of being anti-tyrannical to, hey, take my guns away and slap some taxes on my ass and make me feel like a cheap whore. Sorry, not really. So they focused on the slavery portion of that episode, which again was probably just because they saw 30 seconds of that short. And what I wanted to say is, look, dude, I'm assuming it's a dude, watch the entire show before you make a comment about something. But it doesn't matter. I shouldn't just read the comments because I have a TikTok on my woodworking side, and I made a video that has like 1 million views. Not to brag. I don't make any money off of it. It doesn't matter. But people were so dumb to see that, yeah, you can do a certain thing a certain way and it works because you just got to think outside the box. And instead of like trying it and doing it the way I explained, they told me how it doesn't work, even though I did an entire house using that same system and it worked. But what do I know? That was my very first TikTok. I was kind of shocked that it went so well. But enough about me. Let's get back to this show. Virginia. Listen, I stand by my comments from the last episode. I stand by my warning to every other state that will soon be under very similar legislation. States like Virginia, states like California, Illinois, they look at the Safer Communities Act, they dissect it, they look at things that sound compelling. That was bubbles coming out of my throat. And then they use the emotion of moms demand action. They create a lot of propaganda. They twist, they turn, they dial on the screws of your heartstrings until they make you feel like losing liberty is less of a problem than safety. Or, in other words, safety is greater than liberty. It is not. There is no guarantee of safety anywhere in the founding documents. None whatsoever. It is not about keeping you safe. The government cannot keep you safe. And simply looking at all these states that have passed common sense gun law, how safe are those communities? Did the government, those state governments, did they succeed in keeping their citizens safe? I would probably say, anecdotally, of course, I don't live in any of those states, at least not yet. Anecdotally, I would say no, the government is incapable of keeping you safe, no matter what level of government we're talking about. Even small cities and small municipalities, it is impossible for them to guarantee the safety of their citizens. But do you know who can guarantee your safety and the safety of your family? I shouldn't say guarantee. Well, God can guarantee it, I suppose. But the person that has the greatest influence on the safety of your loved ones is you. Yet it's funny how the government is so willing to take that role from you. And they have a terrible track record. But so many citizens across this great nation are buying in to the great lie that the government knows how to keep you safe. Let me ask you this. Let's put it this way. Have you been on Amtrak lately? I've never been on an Amtrak, by the way. Is that efficient? Maybe. What about the post office? Is that efficient? I mean, they've gone through some amazing changes over the last few years, sure. But if they were so good at what they did, if the post office was so efficient as a government entity, why do we have UPS or FedEx or any of these other ones? Because they're not good at it. They're not good at it. They get in their own way. They create more bureaucracy for the sake of having a bureaucracy, for the sake of funding, for the sake of using tax dollars. You see, the government is more concerned about the government. No matter what they say, it's what they do. They are more concerned about themselves and fulfilling their own wishes and dreams than making sure that you have your liberties. They want you to subvert. They want you to discount. They want you to ignore the liberties guaranteed to you by God. And they'll say it's for your safety because they want that power. Now, we can look through history. Look at any society throughout the world in history and tell me what government was able to keep their citizenry, their subjects, their serfs, whatever you want to call it, safe during the whole tenure of that government. Maybe you can think of some. Rome was great until they weren't. Okay, well, let's look at England. England was great up until they weren't. You had Henry VIII. This is going back a couple of years. Maybe some of our American folks in our legislature, in our Senate, they're probably old enough to remember Henry VIII. But he was so kind. By the way, he was a king. He wouldn't have allowed protesters on his street. No, he didn't care about his subjects' safety. Government has one goal. Should it have this goal? Of course not. But it seems, in my point of view, the goal of government is to take complete control. Now, I don't think it was originally constituted in that way, but now it feels like its ultimate goal is to take complete control and give you everything that you need, and you'll be happy with that. That is not what our founders had in mind. That is not what the founding documents Not just our founding documents, but contemporary writings from our founders had in mind, in my perspective. So, for those of you living in Virginia, keep fighting. Don't give up. Don't give up. The tyrants are going to continue to push and push and push, but hold the line. Hold the line. Don't give up. I know there's a knee-jerk reaction of just, I gotta escape this state and go somewhere that can tolerate who I am. And we've seen that kind of flight. We've seen that flight in my state. I live in Idaho. We have had anyways, a huge surge of folks leaving California, Washington, Oregon, even Arizona, right? They're trying to get away from the mess that is the local government, because they want their freedoms. They want to enjoy their life the way they feel like they should be able to. But alas, those governments that they fled, they ultimately bring some of those same ideals into our state. And we're seeing it in my state right now. We're seeing it in the voting practices of people I thought, in my state anyways, were conservative. But I digress. Now, I mentioned last week as well that I am concerned specifically about Utah. I don't have any kind of inside information about the legislative actions going on in Utah. Zero, none. I don't pay attention to Utah. I probably should, because it's a neighboring state to me. They did want to tax Idaho drivers specifically. I don't know. There was something about taxing fuel that comes from Idaho, or taxing Idahoans specifically at the pump. I don't know how they're going to do that. I didn't really pay attention too much to that because it's asinine. But that points to the very thing that I'm worried about for Utah. My listeners in Utah, get involved. You have people that have run as Republicans that are not Republican. They do not have conservative ideals. They may have a letter after their name. They may speak in a way that makes you feel good inside, or maybe you have a religious proclivity that makes you just completely trust these people. And I get that. I understand that. But don't trust them. In my state, in Idaho, we have legislators that have run as a Republican, under the Republican ticket, claiming they're conservatives. Well, just 2 elections before that, they ran as Democrats. They are willing to have no scruples. Now, I don't know if any politician actually has any scruples, but your rights are getting subverted, whether you believe it or not. Because why? Because we are lazy, apathetic voters who just think it won't happen here in our state, and yet it does. Because we're lazy, we're apathetic. That's why Virginia is dealing with their BS. That's why Colorado is dealing with their BS. That's why Wyoming, Wyoming not yet. Washington, it's coming to Wyoming too, probably sooner than later. But Washington, Oregon, California has had issues for many years, far long ago. Arizona, New Mexico, the West is just getting... I know Virginia's not in the West, but you get my point. Apathy is a sure way to tyranny. By the way, I created a t-shirt that's on the eBay shop tonight about tyranny, just as a reflection of last episode. I can't remember if I did a show last. I don't remember much, all right? I'm having struggles. I want to talk a little bit about the pistol brace thing. Now, you've probably heard rumblings about. So the rule was, if you guys remember all the way back from the beginning, right? Pistol braces were designed for a veteran from SIG. They sent the information to the ATF. The ATF said, yeah, that's cool. It's not going to make your AR pistol into a short-barreled rifle. Go ahead and manufacture them. SIG said, yay, let's manufacture them. And then other manufacturers got on board. There was a bunch of cool companies that came out. You have Maxim. You have, I can't remember who made the blade. So there's a bunch of different models. All of them had to submit information to the ATF to make sure it didn't reclassify firearms, in this case, AR pistols, into short-barreled rifles, because those are controlled under the NFA. So the ATF, manufacturers spend a lot of time communicating with the ATF, making new attachments, nothing more. It doesn't change the function of the firearm, but attachments to a gun. The ATF said cool. The manufacturers built them. For years, everything was hunky-dory. And then the ATF, the ATF under Dettelbach and the Biden administration and the DOJ under Biden, they said, hey, those make your gun into an SBR. You can't use those anymore. And then a big classification came out. They had the letter, if you guys remember. I can't remember for sure when it came out. Was it 2023? They had the checklist, right? If your gun has these things, then it's an SBR. If it doesn't have these things, then you're good. It was an asinine way to approach it, but the ATF was willing to be asinine. It's kind of their MO, honestly. So eventually, Gun Owners of America, they file a lawsuit. The lawsuit goes quite a ways through the district courts. Then they say, okay, the rule that the ATF published without congressional approval, because the ATF has the ability to make and enforce their own rules. It's not a law, it's a rule. But the court said, listen, you got to vacate that rule. It doesn't change the way the firearm functions. It is not an SBR. It is still a firearm with a brace. They've met the criteria that you established in the beginning. Vacate the rule. ATF says, okay, we're not going to interpret the rule that way anymore. And so they're like, hunky-dory, sweet. Then comes the most pro two-way administration ever. And you guys already know how I feel about Trump when it comes to Second Amendment activities. Yes, he has done some amazing things. We've got some great judges at the district and the Supreme Court level that seem to be a little bit more liberty-minded at times, and other times and maybe not so much. But so the GOA, there's this suit going on in Texas where the DOJ said, hey, or the ATF rather said, okay, here's the deal. The classification, we don't use that, but the rule still exists, and we're willing to prosecute folks according to the rule for the pistol brace ban. Even though it was vacated, that only worked on definitions, not the rule. The rule still exists, and so we can still execute law or their opinion according to that rule. And then the DOJ says, cool, you're fine. Keep doing what you're doing, ATF, because we are the most pro 2A administration in history. Unless we want, unless the people want to get rid of the NFA, put suppressors, take suppressors off the naughty list and stuff. We can't do that. But you can keep enforcing a rule that was vacated. But whatever, use your discretion. That was kind of the conversation with the DOJ and the ATF, in my understanding. What's my thoughts about this? I mean, that is a very generalized example of what's going on with the pistol-based rule. There are tons of videos out there. Watch those. You can understand my perspective compared to theirs. You can tell me where I'm wrong. Most people do in the comments. Here's my perspective on the pistol-based rule. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised whatsoever that the ATF didn't just delete the rule completely. Why am I not surprised? Because they are happy to take away bits and pieces of your liberties for the sake of your safety. We just had that conversation. It's just like what's going to happen, and it's going to happen with the tax stamp, right? Well, we're not going to get rid of the NFA. We can't do that. But here's a bone we're going to throw you. We're just not going to enforce the tax associated to suppressor purchases or any Form 1 or Form 4 stuff. Okay, we'll just get rid of that altogether. The tax is still there, but we're not going to enforce the tax. Okay, so what does that do to future suppressor purchasers, SBR purchasers, SBS purchasers? Well, what that does is it leaves the gate open for the monster to come right back in. Because when this administration's done, the most pro 2A administration in American history is done, then the least favorable administration to the Second Amendment will gladly walk in and reinstate a tax that has not been adjusted since the 1930s. And when that tax gets adjusted, it's going to be $5,000, roughly. Right, you can look it up yourself. That when that NFA tax was enabled was at 1934 at $200. In today's money, it's close to $5,000. Let me ask you this: let's just say there's a happy little suppressor company local to you. We have a couple of local manufacturers not far from me, which is pretty rad. They build cans at a pretty reasonable price. I think I could probably pick up some of their stainless steel cans for under $500, which is pretty nice, without the NFA tax. Yeah, so it's just $500. Now, let me ask you a question. If this gets reinstated and they adjust it for cost, or to the modern dollar, if you will, that $500 suppressor now goes to $5,500. Is that going to make sense for me to pay a very burdensome tax on something that should not even be on the NFA? It should be couth, right? I guess I could say. In other countries, it is uncouth to hunt without a suppressor. It is uncouth to have one on your firearm because it's loud and offensive to people's ears. In some countries, you can just go and buy them over the counter and screw them right onto your firearm. But in America, no, the most pro 2A administration ever, and the only country that guarantees your right for self-defense, decided we should probably tax that because we need revenue. Now, the government has lost out on an immense amount of revenue. Do you know what? I should have looked this up. The complete side note, while I'm talking, let's see if I can find it. Let's see. Suppressor purchasers. Up to date. Or let's see, 2026. This makes for great content, by the way, while you watch me type away. Let's see. I saw this number, and now I can't remember. Let's see if AI can help me out. Grok's always been my little faithful friend. It's never led me astray, ever, ever, ever. How many? I can't even type. How many suppressors purchased? I can't even spell. This year. Okay, Mr. Grocky Pants, help me out here. Is that how many suppressors have been purchased this year? This would be amazing. So if you guys remember, the big beautiful bill made it so as of January, the tax would go to zero, was $200. As of now, let's see, Form 4 applications in February alone were 147,314. So as of late February, holy shit, that's a lot of suppressors, a lot of paperwork. As of the end of February, 5,589,358. Yeah. Oh, that's on the books right now, 5 million. So, geez, Grok, you weren't more than 260,000 since January. So there you go. Oh, here is the number. Finally, found it. Yeah, found it. Great audio here, Steve-O. Year to date, Form 4s, mostly suppressors. So this is everything, but mostly suppressors, 400,000. So let's just say it's 403,000 with what they got. Now, times that by $200. I was homeschooled, so I'm going to use a calculator, but I'm sure you're already there, right? 403,000. 403, 520 times 200. That's $80 million. You get that right? Yeah. So you think the government would love having $80 million? Let's see if that was adjusted for, current funds. So what do we say? 403, 520 times 5,000. Yeah, that's $2 billion. So yeah, I think the government, once this administration, the most pro 2A administration in American history, is gone, that tax, I really believe that's going to be reinstated, just like the Bristol Brace rule was never really erased, but just kind of novocained, if you will. This is the problem with Republicans that they have been so good at for so long, is doing nothing, doing just enough to make you feel like your vote counted. We had the chance to completely just dismantle the NFA. I get the worry about full autos, but here's the thing. Gangbangers are running full autos anyways, no matter what federal law exists. Apparently, they're still getting Glock switches and shooting up their other homies out on the streets. So why does that even matter? So let's just take all the autos off of the naughty list, as well as suppressors and short-barreled rifles and short-barreled shotguns. Just make them available like a normal free republic that we are, so we can defend ourselves. No, let's not take that out of the NFA, because we don't want to offend our other countries that think that we're elitists. Well, I don't give a shit about other countries. I don't care what Sweden's doing. I don't care what Norway's doing. I don't care about the lies that Mexico's sharing, that saying that we're shipping guns to the cartels over there, other than the cartels are stealing the guns that the Mexican government are buying, and then they blame it on us. That's funny how that works. And then we saw what was the dumpster country that Puerto Rico? Yeah, Puerto Rico. They were, the American legal guns are coming across. Okay, how are they getting there? For one thing, they didn't swim. Are they being stolen? Well, then they're illegal already, right? What does that have to do with America? Why don't you just curtail the violence by eliminating the criminal element in your country? Execute the laws that exist within your sovereign soil. That's what we should be doing, but instead, the federal government and local state governments, whatever, government in general, uppercase G, right? They replace God and they put the government there because they know better, and they want to take away your right for self-defense and self-preservation. As I mentioned in last week's episode, the Second Amendment is not about guns. It's not. Get that out of your mind. I know it's kind of ubiquitous. We think about Second Amendment and guns because that's normally what we go for. But the Second Amendment is about your self-defense, your ability to defend yourself, your family, and your country against tyranny. It's not about hunting. It's not about just carrying a sword. It's not about carrying a gun. It's about your right for self-preservation against any evildoer, any enemy, any creature that wishes to take the life of you or of your loved one. So that being said, when the government wants to neuter the Second Amendment for your safety, it is not about guns. Yes, that is a major component of how we understand the Second Amendment, but it is not about the gun. It's about taking away your liberty. Once they dispose of the Second Amendment, and they will do everything they can to nullify, even if it means having a constitutional convention, which they know they cannot do, or a convention of states rather, they cannot do because they know that that wouldn't work. But what they can do is they can create the avenue for gun manufacturers to be sued out of existence. They can create the avenue of creating a tax burden so high on a right that should not be taxed. But they'll create a burden so high, a barrier so deep for entry that people just won't want to do it. They're not going to get rid of the Second Amendment. But if they did, it would include more than just guns. But what they will do for your safety is limit everything possible, legislate things out of existence without touching the amendment. And if they can do that with the Second Amendment, where will they stop? I contend they won't stop. We're already seeing pushback on some religious liberties. And it's kind of interesting, right? I've heard this debate on X Spaces. If you guys don't know what Spaces are, if you get on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, there's these live chat rooms, I guess, if you will, where people have conversations. And some of them are incredibly productive, unless you get on in the morning and you try to have a fun conversation. And most of them are stupid about crypto or other stuff that doesn't matter. But every once in a while, you'll stumble in on one of these spaces that has some meat and has some structure and has some poignant conversation. And one of these was by one of my friends, shout out to Corey, about religion and about religious freedom and about how Islam and you know, how they're bringing that in and how we're so frustrated with Islam and what we're being perceived to see or what we are seeing or what we're manipulated in seeing about a religion, whether you like it or not. I have some serious reservations about some of the tenets of Islam. I do see that there's a very difficult conversation to be had about religious liberties when we touch on these things. I happen to be a member of religion that was persecuted severely for a very long time. And you may not agree with that statement or not, but it's true. It was very true. Within the United States, within a free country, people were murdered for what they believed. And it's a tough conversation to have, and it's a good conversation to have. But I guess what I'm getting at is, if the waters can be muddied and confusing, and they can tribalize us in a way to where we hate a specific right, in one case, like we were just talking about, the Second Amendment, or if we can be tribalized and be manipulated to hate a certain person or a certain religious belief in a way that it poisons the water for all. Well, look at that. If we can get to hate one religion, then all religion could be hated, and then there's a portion of the First Amendment gone. If we can be manipulated to think that social media or the news outlets that are mainstream are in a way poisoned and we can't trust them, look at that. Well, there's a portion of the First Amendment taken away. If we can be manipulated to believe that being surveilled in every aspect of our lives by a device in our pocket or strapped to our wrist for our safety, well, there's the Fourth Amendment being manipulated, possibly out of existence for your safety. This is the slope. Now, I know I could be fear-mongering. I could just be, I guess, spreading misinformation, or you could open your mind and just think about manipulation for a minute, and how by tribalizing a group or multiple groups into different tribes and then having them fight with each other as to be distracted with what the big powers are doing, maybe that's where the big problem is. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my butt, which according to most of the comments I get is what it is, because I share misinformation and I lie. I share the propaganda, as one person put it. Whatever, you don't have to listen to my show. But if you liked this commentary, I know it's not as structured as it should have been. It was a busy week. I had my cousin up here. We had some family stuff going on. Just today was incredibly busy for me for a Saturday. I couldn't film any content. I have not just the idea of video that we were talking about earlier. I might have shared this before, but I have a cool idea for a shotgun video. It's just finding the time. And the weather has been kind of poopy. Last week, like 4 days of 60-mile-an-hour winds, gusts anyways. Impossible to set up a target, right? You just can't survive out there and make a video. But I have an idea for a shotgun video, which I think would be cool to talk about and bring things to your attention. If you guys, again, we talked about me buying stuff off of a crappy Chinese website. If you guys are willing to help me out and stride with me a little bit, I don't get given anything. Right? Everything is purchased by me, so I can give honest reviews and opinions about things, which I think most people appreciate. If you look, I have no sponsors. I pay for this out of pocket. If you're willing to help out, that would be fantastic. You already know the ways, we talked about that before, of helping out the show. At the minimum, just like and share and comment. That helps a lot by percolating the videos up in the suggested content. Let's see. Anything else I want to share? Let's end with this. We're going to be about an hour long, maybe a little bit less by the time I edit. I'm not probably going to edit this. I'm not going to lie to myself. When I edit, it takes too long. Holy shit, it is midnight. Where has the time gone? Pardon my French. Let's end with this, and I'll let you guys go because you guys are wonderful. I know a lot of times it's doom and gloom. It's negative stuff. I don't want my show to be negative all the time, but it's just what's on my mind. I've been really disappointed at some of the YouTube channels I used to watch a lot more than I do now, because all they want to talk about is conspiracy. Like, it used to be just gun content. It was fun gun content. But now some of these dudes are spitting conspiracy theories out. Why, Charlie Kirk's this stuff, still talking about Charlie Kirk stuff, which is tragic. I get it, but come on. Like, sometimes things are just what they are. I don't want to talk about like doom and gloom all the time. And I can't help it, I guess, because that's what this whole video was. But you know what? There's light in the tunnel. Like, I still believe that there is a way to fix the mess that is our government. I truly believe there's a way to fix it. But that fix has to start with you and with me. Has to start with the individual. I truly, truly believe this. The only way to affect change in the community is to affect change within you, yourself, your soul, and then your home, and then your neighbors, and then it just grows from there. That's the only way to affect lasting, substantial, solid change. And it does start with individuals. And I am totally talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you guys. If there's something that's holding you back, whether it's how you feel about yourself, maybe the way you see yourself, your self-esteem, might be your physical health. I know I have been struggling a lot with physical health, but I think there might be some mental health things going on too that keep me from being motivated. Hopefully I've got some of those things figured out. No, I'm not suicidal. That has nothing to do with that. But sometimes we just get down, right? We just... we're a little bit harder on ourselves than we should be. So hopefully I've put that behind me. We don't need to get into that, but the change of oneself is far more powerful than we give it credit for. If you believe in God, pray for help. Pray for the desire to create the desire to do something, if that makes sense. You have to want to do it. And sometimes we have to pray for the want. If you're having relationship issues with your spouse, get them figured out. Having that weight on your shoulders is something that can be taken off. It can be fixed, and it's not worth dragging around. If it's something you have to change it. Just change it. If there's something that happened years ago, bury that stinking hatchet. Get over it. It's not worth dragging that weight around. If there's something going on at work, figure it out. Put it away. Put it on the shelf. Get rid of it. Whatever. That change in oneself is where the change happens. That's where the spark happens. That's where your life will become to get better. You'll see the world in a different way. And when we see things a different way, when we're looking for other things than the negative, when we're looking for positive change, then we can be that change and we can help others see that same light. And when we get ourselves figured out, then we can work on our families. And family is the core unit to our country. That is the core principle, the nucleus, the university of love and freedom starts in your home. Be that example to your children, to your spouse, to your neighbors. That's where change is going to take effect. We could totally fix everything that's going on in our country if we just kind of took a little bit of self-responsibility and reflected on ourselves and fixed our imperfections, which we're always going to have, but we can work on them. And I have faith in you guys. It's easy to see the negative stuff. It really is. And probably being on social media too much is an issue. I probably should fix that. I have dialed back quite a bit, actually. Maybe not. Now I just buy shit on Temu. You guys are awesome. I'm grateful. If you stayed all the way to the end of this episode, you guys are rock stars. I truly call you my friends. If you have any suggestions or ideas for a show, or again, things you want me to kind of test out, maybe make some fun episodes that way, just holler. Let me know what you think. If there's something you want to unpack, let's do it. Let's figure it out. Let's work together and be a better people. If you don't do anything, at least do these three things. Stay free. Remember where your liberties come from and fight for those liberties. Stay safe, because only you have the ability to keep you and your family safe. That's not the government's responsibility. And then, as always, I need you to stay range-minded, because that's what we're working on, freedom together, and we can get it. And you guys are awesome. You're all a bunch of studs and dudettes and whatever else. Just get stuff figured out. We got this. You guys are awesome. Peace out.
I just f***ing shot myself.
Bring your hand underneath the trigger guard and roll your palms together. So both your hands are going to sit on the left-hand side of the pistol. You're going to walk out. Both your arms. You're going to push with your right and pull with your left. Focus on that front sight tip. Now, if you want on this 44 Magnum, you can shoot it single action. That's like trigger pull.
Did you mean to do that?
Yeah.
You guys are still here? Why? That was it. It's over. Bye. Weirdos.